Today's review is a Patreon raffle video requested by Lee Fraser. If you'd like your idea for a Media Mementos video to come to life, then we got a link in the description for our Patreon because that's the only way we take requests. Do you remember when Disney Channel used to do their animated series based off their hit movies? They're kinda coming back to this a little bit with Big Hero 6 and Tangled, but before that, it used to be with basically all of their films. Lilo and Stitch, The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, even Hercules got it. In fact, two of those awful direct-to-video Disney sequels, Atlantis Milo's Return and Belle's Magical World, were supposed to be the animated series based off of Atlantis the Lost Empire and Beauty and the Beast. But they weren't good enough for TV, so they were just slapped on a video cassette, then later a DVD, and then sold to us for $10 a pop. Makes you feel so good, doesn't it? But around the time when Disney was slowing down their production of all these things, this came out. The Emperor's New School. That's right, they made an animated series based on The Emperor's New Groove. How is it? This may sound crazy, but I think this is one of their best animated series based on their movies. Let me tell you why. First off, what's the show about? Well, it's about Kuzco going back to school in order to learn how to become emperor, because if he fails, he'll never get the throne. Wait a minute, wasn't he already the emperor? Okay, so maybe this is a prequel, except no, because he's with Pacha here, so, yeah, I don't really get it, but that's like the one bad thing about the show is that it doesn't really make any sense. At least story-wise, but anyways, Kuzco's trying to get through school while palling around with his friends. Melina, the girl that he has a huge crush on, but she both does and does not like him. Guaca, his obsessive fanboy, and Kronk. He's here. And he's also still helping Yzma, who's still out to get Kuzco, this time trying to make sure he doesn't graduate and therefore never ascends to the throne because, I guess, if he fails, she'll get it back even though she's no longer his advisor? I don't really get it, but again, don't focus on the story, because that's not really what the show's about. But if it's not about the story, then what is it about? Well, it's about the same thing as the movie, the humor. It's got the same fast writing, it's got the same fluid animation, albeit not as good because it's for TV. Really, it's basically the movie, but in miniature. They get just about everything right, and the jokes land constantly too. And that's pretty amazing to me because the director of the film didn't come back for this. But they were able to capture everything he did really well. Also, you can tell that the people behind the show really cared about it, not just because of how well they were able to emulate the style of the film, but also because of all the new stuff they added too. Like a lot of the surrounding cast members that weren't in the original film, like Guaca or Yada or, this guy, they were added so that Kuzco would have more opportunities to not only bounce off more people, but also to grow as a person. One of the goals for the Emperor's New School was to expand more on Kuzco's character. In fact, even though it doesn't really make sense in universe, that's why the school setting was chosen. They felt that in a school environment, Kuzco would be able to show off a lot of his worst aspects like his pride or his lack of social abilities. And yeah, this does make Kuzco a little bit more likable in the film, mostly because every single time he learns a bit of a lesson, even though it never really seems to stick. Also, I love just how feeble Kuzco is here because when he was the emperor, he was super spoiled and obnoxious, but nobody would ever give him flack for it because he's the emperor. If you get him mad or throw off his groove, you're getting thrown out the window. But now that he's in school and now that he's not the emperor with no power whatsoever, he basically gets pushed around all the time or ignored or anything like that. Only Guaca seems to really give him a lot of respect. Well, of course Kronk does too, but it's Kronk, he loves everybody. Now I will say that the characters in this show aren't really deep. A lot of them are just kind of one-dimensional, like for example, Melina is smart, Guaca is obsessed, Yada is voiced by Miley Cyrus. Yeah, that's actually her personality. I know it doesn't really make a lot of sense in the context of the show, but if you actually see her in an episode, you'll get what I mean. On their own, they're not great. Sometimes they're not even really good. They're just kind of stereotypes and archetypes that you'd find in any other Disney Channel show, but when you put them together, especially with Kuzco, that's where they really shine. They become funny, they become endearing, and really what more do you want? It's kinda like how the characters were in the original movie too. Don't get me wrong, Pacha and his family are great and all, it's just that without Kuzco, Yzma, or Kronk, do you really think these guys would be nearly as good characters? Honestly, I don't, because they're just kinda basic. But again, it's when you add these extra characters in, then they can become good and they bounce off of them and grow by proxy. Also, there were two characters in there that I just mentioned that I haven't really brought up much yet, right? Yzma and Kronk. Aside from Kuzco, they're really the only characters that can work really well on their own. But of course, they're better together. Everything you loved about these guys from the original movie is back. And they get to go even farther and even sillier than they did in the film. Once again, it's taking what worked there, bringing it to the small screen, and even expanding on it just like a good spin-off should do. When I see Yzma doing something totally insane that maybe she wouldn't have done in the film, I still buy it because that's exactly who Yzma is. Also, it's clear that by this point she's tried and failed to kill Kuzco so many times that she's probably running out of steam by now, right? But then there's also Kronk, who genuinely likes Kuzco, but he also genuinely likes Yzma, so he doesn't really know what side to be on. He works for Yzma, but he's Kuzco's friend. Obviously, with how pure Kronk is, he doesn't intend to have wavering loyalty, he's just Kronk. He wants to be everyone's friend. What's wrong with that? Well, he's trying to kill somebody, there's that, but aside from that, you know what I mean. And with the story like, Kuzco goes to school, learns a lesson while Yzma tries to kill him, you think it'd be very formulaic, right? Well, no, it's not. Considering the fact that the film was about Kuzco being turned into an animal, you'd think, oh, every episode has Kuzco turning into an animal that relates to his problem of the week. Nope, they don't do that. Instead, they do whatever they want. They have a Carnival parody called Cornival. They have an episode where they just redo the show a la Chowder because Yzma's writing fake fan letters. Oh yeah, that's something else they do a lot in the show is they break the fourth wall. They go just as far, if not farther, than they did in the film, adding a new segment and everything. Kuzco's Doodles. Here, Kuzco will outright stop the story and draw out how he thinks it's gonna progress. And of course, it's a little bit self-absorbed. Okay, who am I kidding? Very self-absorbed, and a little bit childish as well. That's one of the reasons why Kuzco works so well here. Once again, he can't hurt anybody because he's got no power, and essentially he's just a big kid that's also a little bit of a jerk who doesn't really know any better, and he grows as the show goes on. And even though the lessons he learns in the show don't stick, it seems like the lesson he learned in the movie did, because he's not nearly as much of a jerk as he was there. He treats people with some respect, a little is some, right? And it all culminates to the final episode where Kuzco finally has a vulnerable moment. He actually embraces one of his weaknesses, the fact that he's afraid he's gonna mess things up. He's grown and learned so much since last time that he doesn't know if he has the ability to rule anymore, so Yzma helps him literally chicken out of his responsibilities. And eventually he decides to embrace the fact that he's gonna be a pretty good ruler because, for once, he's not gonna be doing it alone. Since he went to Kuzco Academy, he's made a whole bunch of friends. Friends who are gonna stick by him and help him when things get tough. So he decides to go back to being emperor and thus ends the franchise, although, according to some stuff I read, that might not have been the original plan. So obviously this was gonna be the finale. I mean, how could it not? It ends with everything getting wrapped up. And it's all about Kuzco's graduation. You don't graduate and then go back. But a lot of people say that this show was cancelled because of Eartha Kitt's death. I mean, if that's true, I can definitely see that because you can't have anybody but Eartha Kitt be Yzma. Otherwise, it's basically heresy. But this episode would have had to have been recorded at least a year in advance. Plus, Disney likes to have their shows stick by the 52 episode rule, so I don't know. Maybe they made this because they knew Eartha Kitt was gonna die. Maybe they had this on standby for just in case the show got canned. I don't know, but I can tell you that this show was really something special. And you could tell right from the moment it started because this theme song, wow. This is something special. Back when we were gonna do the top 10 theme songs that are better than their shows video, this was gonna be on it. Again, the show is great, but that theme song is like S tier level. It's just get up and dance music right there. So yeah, that's the Emperor's New School. It took exactly what made the original movie work, and then did it again and again and again for 2 seasons. This is exactly what you need to do for a spin-off show. Don't just do the movie again 52 times. Take what you did right in the original and expand on it just like they did here. Even though it was technically speaking, a Disney cash grab. They did everything they could to make it work, and I really wish they'd do a lot more of that these days with some of their other spin-off works. Although I hear The Mandalorian's pretty good, I still haven't watched it because I'm kind of sick of new Star Wars stuff right now. I think you kind of know why. But anyways, if you haven't seen this show in a long time, go back and watch it, especially if you ever want to make a show of your own. This is how you do a spin-off show right. Well, folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? What do you think of The Emperor's New School? Comment below and let me know, because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. Today's comment of the day goes to Eat at Joe's. This looks like a John K. vehicle. Yeah, I can definitely see him making something like Movie 43. You know, this comment might not be like this long essay about going in the in-depth thoughts of what we said or anything, but, you know, it made us laugh. Both Billy and I went to each other and thought, yeah, we gotta make this comment of the day, no question. We gotta convince the other person, and sure enough, we didn't have to do that because we both independently knew this was gonna be it. It just made us laugh. Well done, Eat at Joe's, well done. Real quick, I'd like to thank our Patreon executive producers, Reziel, Leaf Razor, Azarius, Whoopdoo, Michaela Bellamy, and MD the Dude. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then consider donating to our Patreon, which has a link in the description below. And also there's a link to our Discord server down there too. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys next time!